All right, America, buckle up because we're about to dive headfirst into another one of those only in America situations. We're talking about the very real possibility of a convicted felon running for the highest office in the land. Yes, you heard that right. Even if the justice system throws the book at him, Donald Trump could theoretically campaign from a prison cell. Now, before you start picturing a Trump for president banner hanging from a penitentiary window, let's be clear, this isn't about whether he should run again, this is about whether he can, and the answer, as shocking as it might seem, is a resounding yes. See, our founding fathers, in all their wisdom, apparently forgot to add a little clause about, no major felonies to the presidential qualifications. Don't get me wrong, the Constitution lays out some ground rules. You've got to be 35, a natural-born citizen, and lived here for 14 years. Pretty straightforward stuff. But nowhere does it say, oh, and by the way, you can't be a convicted criminal currently serving time. It's enough to make you wonder if they were passing around something a little stronger than tea back in 1787. This isn't just some abstract legal loophole either. It's a precedent that's been tested before. And trust me, the historical examples are about as bizarre and unsettling as you might imagine. So grab your gavel and your gavel snacks, folks, because things are about to get constitutionally confusing. Let's rewind the clock a century or so. The year is 1920, the world's recovering from a pandemic, sound familiar? And a man named Eugene V. Debs is running for President of the United States. Sounds normal enough, right? Except for one tiny detail. Eugene V. Debs is in prison, like actually incarcerated. Debs was a socialist leader convicted under the Espionage Act for speaking out against World War I. He ran his campaign from the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary, communicating with the outside world through letters and smuggled out speeches. And get this, he still managed to rake in nearly 1 million votes. Fast forward to 1992 and we have Lyndon LaRouche, another candidate who liked to campaign from the slammer. LaRouche, convicted of mail fraud and conspiracy, decided that prison was the perfect launching pad for his presidential bid. He ran and lost multiple times, proving that some people just can't take a hint, even when it comes with bars. These cases might seem like historical footnotes, but they highlight a glaring reality. The US Constitution doesn't explicitly bar convicted felons from running for president, and that, my friends, is a constitutional conundrum of epic proportions. Think about it for a second. We live in a country where you can be deemed unfit to vote or own a firearm because of a felony conviction. But running for the highest office in the land? Hey, no problem. It's enough to make your head spin faster than a politician trying to dodge a direct question. This isn't just a quirky, historical anomaly. It goes to the heart of who we are as a nation and what we value. Do we really want a system where someone convicted of serious crimes could potentially lead the free world? Where the person with their finger on the nuclear button might be, well, a convicted felon? This isn't about whether you love or hate Donald Trump. This is about something much bigger. It's about the integrity of our democracy. It's about upholding the rule of law. And it's about asking ourselves some tough questions about what it truly means to be qualified to lead. Let's be clear, the Constitution isn't some dusty old relic. It's the bedrock of our democracy. A living document that's supposed to evolve with us, but sometimes it needs a little nudge in the right direction. And this whole felon president thing, yeah, that's a pretty big nudge. The founding fathers, bless their powdered wigs, couldn't have possibly foreseen every scenario. They lived in a time when news traveled by horseback and Twitter was the sound a bird made. They couldn't have imagined a world where a presidential candidate might have a rap sheet longer than their arm. But here we are. And we're left grappling with a constitutional quirk that seems downright undemocratic. It's like finding out that your perfectly normal-looking house is built on top of a sinkhole. Sure, it's been standing for a while, but you can't help but feel a little uneasy about the foundation, so what do we do about it? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer, as with most things in American politics, is complicated. Here's another head-scratcher for you. Felons lose their Second Amendment rights. You know, the right to bear arms. Once you're convicted of a felony, you can kiss your gun collection goodbye. The government deems you unfit to own a firearm, and that's that. But running for president, apparently that's A-OK, even if you've been found guilty of some pretty serious offenses. It's a double standard that's hard to ignore. On the one hand, we're saying that felons are too dangerous to be trusted with guns. On the other, we're saying they might be the perfect person to lead the country. It's enough to give you constitutional whiplash. It's like saying, sure, you can't be trusted with a Glock, but have you considered holding the nuclear codes? We think you'd look great with your finger on the button. This isn't about whether you're pro-gun or anti-gun. It's about basic logic and consistency. If we're going to restrict certain rights for felons, shouldn't those restrictions apply across the board, especially when it comes to something as important as running for president? The Constitution is a bit like a giant game of Jenga. You pull out one block and the whole thing might come crashing down. And when it comes to rights and restrictions, things get really complicated, really fast. On the one hand, we believe in second chances. People make mistakes and they should have the opportunity to turn their lives around. Stripping someone of their right to run for office, even after they've served their time, feels like we're punishing them twice. But on the other hand, we're talking about the presidency here, the leader of the free world, the person who represents America on the global stage. Don't we want someone with a clean record? Someone who embodies the very best of our nation? It's a tough call, and there's no easy answer, but it's a conversation we need to have because the integrity of our democracy depends on it. So where do we go from here? Do we stick with the status quo, constitutional quirks and all? Or do we try to amend our way out of this mess, potentially opening up a Pandora's box of unintended consequences? It's a decision that will shape the future of American democracy. Do we want to be a nation that values inclusivity above all else, even if it means potentially electing a leader with a checkered past? Or do we prioritize experience and a spotless record, even if it means limiting the pool of potential candidates? There's no right or wrong answer here. It's a matter of values, of weighing the pros and cons and deciding what kind of nation we want to be. But one thing's for sure, we can't just bury our heads in the sand and pretend this issue doesn't exist. The possibility of a convicted felon running for president might seem like something out of a dystopian novel, but it's our reality, and it forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about our democracy. Do we trust the American people to make the right decision, even if it means giving them the option to elect someone with a criminal record? Or do we believe that certain safeguards need to be in place to protect the integrity of the highest office in the land? These are questions that will continue to be debated for generations to come. But one thing's for certain, the future of American democracy depends on our willingness to have these tough conversations, to engage in thoughtful dialogue, and to find common ground even in the face of deep divisions. The choice is ours. Let's hope we make the right one.